In the absence of his great rival Martin Schanker, Gollop was a clear favourite last weekend at Brands Hatch. This year, his distinctive MG Metro 6R4 was the fastest car in the British Championship, and Gollop won his first outright British title. And Brands Hatch, if the conditions were right, was his ideal venue.
The weather especially, it's going to probably stay greasy all day, and really you've got to have a fair bit of luck to stay out of trouble, I think, today.
You've had an emotional victory here in the past. How would you sum up your feelings for this event?
I love the event because it's the biggest British event that we have, and possibly nearly as big as some of the top European events. But the atmosphere here is very good.
But the sport will always have its perils. At Liddon Hill just a few weeks earlier, Gollop had his biggest ever accident. It wrote off his European Championship hopes and a lot more besides. Fortunately, the fire that followed his collision with the bank and Gary Baker was swiftly dealt with. Gollop was comparatively unhurt, but the valued car was a wreck.
Everything rested on this race to keep my chances of winning the European Championship going. And I just pushed too hard around the outside of Pat Durand to try and get up a place to try and see if I could win the race. And I got just caught up with Pat slightly, and at about 100 miles an hour we went off and hit the bank. Unfortunately, we bounced off the bank and came back and hit Gary Baker coming through as well, so it did a fair bit of damage to the car and to Gary's, unfortunately.
Is that one of the biggest you've had?
It's the biggest, yes.
Tell us about the car after that.
Basically, it could have been repaired. The body shell was quite bad, but it is repairable. But because of this event coming up, we've had to reshell it completely, and we'll repair the other shell when we get 5 minutes, as we say.
So how would you sum up the work that's been done and the hours that have been put in over the last few weeks?
Well, we had a quick reckon up, and it was 600 man-hours. It's a lot of time and effort.
Man-hours that seemed well spent as Gollop moved through the qualifying heats in which times are set to decide grid positions for the A, B or C finals. All was going well until this fifth heat. Gollop first off the line, well ahead of one of his big rivals, the Norwegian Tor Home, but then problems as he coasts to a standstill on the outside of paddock. The problem, a broken rear differential, and there would follow a frantic 20 minutes to effect the repair and stay in the competition. Meanwhile, out on the track, bigger problems for Tor Home, chasing Pauli Silvernoinen. Home in the RS200 is a bit too ambitious here at the chicane. Jan Arthur Iverson leads, Home gets it all wrong, then seems to have sorted things out, but no. A very big impact indeed at the chicane, and a rather eventful heat is brought to a premature end. And for two Grand Prix favourites, the action now switches from the track to the pits. For Gollop, no time to lose in changing that rear differential on the 6R4. For Tor Home, a wave to the crowd indicates that he's okay, the car is another matter. Now, will Gollop, and indeed Rallycross drivers in general, don't sit back in the motorhome at moments of crisis like this. And the British champion has got the helmet and driving gloves off. Spanners are what he needs for the next 20 minutes. But they're also a philosophical breed, swift to accept the inevitable. And Tor Home, a top 3 finisher here last year, has decided that his car needs rather more than 20 minutes attention, and he's out of the British Grand Prix.
These cars, when you keep your foot in it, they pull themselves out of it, but they are some beasts to drive, and I kept it the 2 first curves. I didn't manage quite the 3rd one, and that's where I hit the rubber wall.
Very hefty impact. Are you okay?
Oh, the safety in the car are perfect, so I am quite okay. Nothing the matter with me, but the car, we have some winter work on the car.
Yeah. Did you realise immediately that the car would be beyond repair for the day?
Oh yes, I didn't even have to go and have a look. I've crashed these cars before, and I know how it feels. This one was a heavy one.
Meanwhile, in Gollop's pit, the deadline is met and the work is done. The rear differential is changed with a couple of minutes to spare, and Gollop is now on course for his last heat and a chance at that fastest time.
What's the panic been like in the last few minutes?
Murder. We're not sort of back into the quick changing of things because the car's been so reliable. You get out of the practice of changing things quickly, so We're a little bit rusty on it at the moment.
I think a lot of people would be surprised to see such a hands-on involvement from the driver as well, but it's always been like that, isn't it?
Well, it's always been like that, yeah. I mean, I love working on cars anyway, so I might as well get my hands dirty, might I?
But his supreme qualification is behind the wheel, and in the heat that followed, Gollop was dominant, urging his car on to the fastest time of the day. Will Gollop, mechanic, racing driver, favourite of the Brands Hatch crowd, he'd be on pole position for the Autoglass British Rallycross Grand Prix. The British Rallycross Grand Prix of last year was a tale of disappointment, not only for Will Gollop, who strayed wide on the knife edge while chasing Martin Shanker, but also for John Welch, approaching hard behind. This was Gollop's moment of misjudgment. Most of the field managed to avoid him, but not John Welch in the X-Track Vauxhall Astra, and while Shanker went on to victory, they were both out of the race. The experienced Welch took a while to recover fully from the back injuries he sustained there, and Brands Hatch 1991, his Astra, is still taking a battering. An A finalist last year, now he's trying to force his way through the C and B finals. This was the start of his problems early in the day.
We went out for an early practice while it was slippery to find the limit of adhesion, to see how quick you can go. The type of tyres we were on, we wanted to get out very quickly to test the suspension setting from yesterday and try again, but driver error, I think.
In a later heat, trying to improve his position, another mistake at a similar place on the Cooper Straight. And after that, the 1985 British Rallycross Grand Prix winner is required to qualify from the upcoming C final, which is described by Murray Walker.
John Welch on the right of the front row has to win this C final to stay in the running. But one of the Astra's cooling fans has stopped and water's streaming out of a cracked radiator. It's going to be a hot race for the 1985 winner in more ways than one. With John's 650 horsepower Vauxhall on the front row of the grid, it's the red four-wheel drive Metro of Dutchman Hans to pass. Then John Fernandez Metro and Roger Newbold's amazing little Renault Turbo. Row 3, Norwegian Bertil Persson's mighty Audi Quattro and Dave Metcalf's little Vauxhall Nova. And in row 5, the incredible one-legged Eivind Rosnes in his 6-litre 2-speed Chevrolet. 4.5 laps, in car with John Welch, number 12, to pass creeps forward, and that's forbidden. So, the start is aborted. Get back, says the marshal. Uh-oh, that's a warning flag. Don't do that again or you're out. So, in car with Welch again, 650 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, and it's go. John fights the power. It's a great start from Fernandez, but Welch leads. Into paddock. In car with Welch, onto the infield. And to pass loses it. Fernandez challenges as the Dutchman recovers, down into the S's. And number 34, Newbold in the Renault 5, is 4th. Rosnes bonnet flapping, look in the Chevrolet up Hillwood Hill, and Penty Sinkler loses the Volvo. Into Langley's gap, Welch leads, to pass 2nd, Fernandez 3rd, Rosnes 4th, Newbold 5th, and Persson is in 6th position. Along the knife edge, 100 miles an hour, and Bertil Persson, number 33 in the yellow Audi, is on the move, up to 5th, past Roger Newbold, up to Hoppy's drop, back onto the tarmac, 2nd gear, 3rd, 4th, up to 110 miles an hour, in car with Welch, down to the chicane, back onto the circuit proper, in 5th gear, up to 120 miles an hour, then back off for paddock turn, and the red light comes on, he's overheating. Now, see that bit of yellow tape on John's steering wheel? That's to show him when the front wheels are pointing straight. Into Druids and into the S's. It's a 4-car fight for 4th position. Rosnes, Persson, Newbold, Mike Mantell, and that big Chevrolet is incredible. Across the knife edge, Welch leads in the Vauxhall Astra, then is to pass in the red Metro, 2nd in car with Welch, cool, calm, collected, on target to qualify for the B final by winning. And it looks like the overheating's not worrying Welch too much. Just adjust the turbo boost there, the red light is still on, and that's a warning not to overdo it. Flame from the turbocharger overrun. John is out on his own, double British champion, not the best of seasons for him so far. He's driving an overheating engine with no time to fix it before the B final if he keeps going to win. And Tapas is pushing. Tapas is off into the Armco. Now, can he stay second? Because Fernandez is closing and Persson is right behind in the Quattro. There they are. And what a battle for fifth. Rosnes in the Chevrolet with the hand throttle. Then it's Newbold, Mantell and Dave Metcalf's little Nova. Over the knife edge. Down to Hoppy's drop. And John Welch is into the second gear chicane. In car with Welch. Up to Paddock. And that must be steam coming out of the back from the radiator as he goes down, tumble downhill. In car, that light's still on. Back onto the tarmac at Halewood Hill. Up to the right-hander of the chicane, it's Tapas, Fernandez and Persson. Now look at this, Rosnes fifth, Newbold, Mantell and Dave Metcalf's 1600cc Nova, and someone has thumped the tyres. Rosnes runs wide, Newbold goes up into fifth position. Metcalf nearly off, up into Druids. So it's Newbold fifth, then it's Rosnes. There's Newbold in the Renault 5, there's Rosnes, followed by Mantell and Metcalf. Langley's gap. Newbold is pulling away, and that is Sinclair's Volvo in ninth position. 266 is Mike Mantell challenging Rosnes for sixth as they go into Hoppy's drop. He's really pushing the two-wheel drive Chevrolet in front of him. The Chevrolet's got loose bodywork. And this is the last lap, the chicane, to pass second, Fernandez third, Persson in fourth position. Into Paddock, down, tumble downhill. There's Fernandez, number 3 in the red and yellow Metro. It looks as though he is going to finish in third place. Persson's not going to be able to catch him. In car with John Welch, almost home to win as he comes out of Druids into Langley's gap, along the knife edge. It's victory for Dijkstra with a back rank start in the B final. Tapas second, Fernandez in third position, Persson fourth, Newbold in fifth place. And it's all action for sixth. Rosnes, Mantell, Metcalf, Sinclair. And Rosnes gets it, but it's no B final for him. Now here's a replay of the start. John Welch, watch his gear changes. Starts in first. Second, third, fourth, back into third, and now second for Paddock. Terrific stuff. And John Welch tours in, he's won, a job well done. 5 very different cars, Astra, Metro, Audi, Renault 5 and Chevrolet in the top 6. And that's the winner. On the grid for the B final, John Welch's battered Astra, lining up for another 4.5 laps, and he's got to win again to qualify for the 1991 British Rallycross Grand Prix. Front row of the grid, Mark Flaherty and Norwegian veteran Jan Arthur Iverson. Dennis Biggerstar from County Down, a 1983 winner, Sweden's Ole Arneson next. Row 3, John Maloney from Limerick with John Cross's Ford Fiesta. Tor Holmes' shattered Ford is out, and John Welch has got it all to do from the back row. All set. And Welch gets a rocket start. He's blasting through. Up to fourth at Paddock. Here they are. Iverson leads, Flaherty second, Arneson third, Welch is fourth. Down, tumble downhill. In car with Welch. Arneson's Quattro ahead, third position. Up Halewood Hill. Iverson leads. Flaherty in the blue Metro second as they go round Druids. Iverson nearly losing it. Arneson in the Quattro is third. Welch is fourth. Across the knife edge, power down. It's very slippery there. Down to Hoppy's drop. And Flaherty in the blue Metro is challenging Iverson. And he hits the tyres. Welch is with Arneson and the tyres have hit Arneson. Look at his bodywork. We're following him. In car with John Welch. The Audi is damaged. Into the chicane and Flaherty runs wide. Arneson and Welch go through to second and third. Flaherty's got a problem. He's touring out. His race is over, and at paddock it's Arneson versus Welch, sliding over the surface. As they go through the S's, it's a tremendous fight for second place, and remember, only the winner goes through to the Group A final. So, out of the S's, up Hailwood, Druids, Iverson leads, Arneson second, Welch third, it's Ford RS 200, Audi second, Vauxhall third, through Langley's Gap, in car with Welch, across the knife edge at 100 miles an hour, into Hoppies. First, second and third together, Iverson, Arneson, Welch, Norway, Sweden, Britain. Biggerstaff is in 4th position, Maloney is in 5th place. We're in car with Welch. This is the chicane. It's Arneson ahead. And look at Biggerstaff and Maloney in the Metros. Tumble downhill coming next, out of paddock. And there are the two Irishmen, Biggerstaff and Maloney, fighting in the Metros for 4th position. Out of Druids, Jan Arthur Iverson is 60 years old. He's driving his son's RS Turbo and he's flying across the knife edge. So is number 32, 37-year-old Ole Arneson from Värmland, using all his 650 horsepower. Hoppies drop, first, second and third together, Iverson, Arneson, Welch, in car with Welch. Remember, winner takes all. The red light is on, he's still overheating. The chicane. So, 2.5 seconds covers the first 5. Look at Arneson in the Audi. It's a big car. He slides very wide indeed. Into the S's, closing up on Iverson. Welch is right behind the Audi in 3rd place. Into Druids again, and Arneson is really sliding it. Iverson hits the tyres. He's offline, and Arneson goes through into the lead. Now, maybe Iverson missed a gear. Anyway, Arneson leads. Welch in 3rd place is right up with Iverson now, so it's the Audi leading. Number 22, the Ford, is in 2nd place. Then it's John Welch's Astra in 3rd position, but he's having to watch the temperature still. Into the chicane, Iverson is offline again. Oh, and he's hit the tyres. That gives Welch a chance to close up, but it looks as though Iverson's keeping the power on. Look at his bodywork. Welch right up alongside the Ford as they go into the S's, and right behind them, Dennis Biggerstaff is up with Welch in the blue and white Metro. Druids, Arneson is clearing off. If he wins, he's going to qualify for the Grand Prix. Along the knife edge at 110 miles an hour, Arneson wins the B final. Iverson is 2nd, Welch is 3rd, Biggerstaff is in 4th position, and a happy Ole Arneson motors home, and John Maloney is out. Now, a replay of the start from John Welch's point of view. Fire the cannon and it's blast off. Past Maloney, past Biggerstaff. 4th by the 1st corner, into paddock, and down to the S's. And here's a replay of Arneson taking the lead. Iverson thumps the tyres, misses a gear. Arneson surges past the Ford to win the B final. He tours in a very part-worn Audi to prepare for the final race, the Grand Prix. Arneson's time there is 15 seconds faster than John Welch's C final victory, so the Swede seems to have the measure of brands in the brutal Audi Quattro.
So for Arneson, a few running repairs in the minutes that remain to the big race, the A final. For John Welch, regrets, but he had a go.
It's just a shame. Last year we were laying 5th or 6th, I think. Today we're in the B final, but they're a nice type of people in the B final.
And that B final, very competitive. But what were the problems that you had in there?
Well, when we got run in the back of by Rob Gibson, he broke the radiator and we couldn't stop all of the water coming out of the hole. So it only really had a 6 or 7 life on the water temperature. But on the 4th lap, it then got too hot and went. The water temperature went up and it went on to 3 cylinders. And from that point on, I just followed it and watched them, really.
And filling up in there as well with...
Yeah, it's a bit fumey, and I didn't know if it was coming from the exhaust, from the radiator. It's one of those, I'm getting too old for all this. I just want a nice, easy race.
We'll have a nice, easy time watching the A final now. Who do you fancy for that?
Obviously, Will's got to be the favourite, but as the dampness is coming down, it's coming out of the ground, the advantage that Steve Palmer and the normally aspirated cars have is the instant response, and what you'll probably see is that Will go across to the distance, and if Steve or a couple of other Metros are that close, they'll be snapping all over his heels, and they have it very easy. Will has the turbo lag and the boost to put up with.
We'll see if your prophecies are correct. It's going to be an interesting final.
Be nice to watch.
But nowhere were the cars so evenly matched, typified by the paddock bend scrabble for advantage in the main final. 4 or 5 abreast, they all somehow got round in a shower of wing mirrors. But by this time, Mark Renison, the former double British Rallycross champion, was already pulling away from the field. And Renison would go on to take an emphatic victory in what was for him a one-off outing in the category. Some distinguished names behind him: Paul Coney, the reigning Vauxhall Nova Challenge champion, and Jeff Allen with all his experience in the SO British Touring Car Championship. A little earlier in the Nova B final, look out for car number 7, driven by Liz Linford, whose husband, a Silverstone Rally School instructor, gave her the drive here to celebrate her 40th birthday. And the present was duly unwrapped inside a couple of laps at Paddock Hill Bend. Happy birthday, Liz, shaken but unhurt in what looked like the biggest accident of the day. And the car, incidentally, owned by John Welch, whose own misfortune we were following a short time ago. But for Liz Linford, life begins at 40. And so did the build-up for the race that would decide the Autoglass British Grand Prix, and a form guide on Steve Palmer, who'd share the front row with Will Gollop. From an earlier heat, this is Palmer in the yellow and black MG Metro 6R4 against Pekka Rantanen and Trevor Hopkins. Murray Walker picks up the story.
Out of paddock, Steve Palmer leads Pekka Rantanen and Trevor Hopkins. And Hopkins, number 2, goes past Rantanen up into second place, up to Druids. So it's Palmer leading, Hopkins second, Rantanen in third position. Metro, Ford RS200, Ford RS200. Through Langley's Gap along the knife edge. And number 2, 42-year-old Trevor Hopkins from Ashford, who built the non-tarmac part of the circuit, chases Steve Palmer into Hoppy's drop, the corner that Trevor made. There it is. And into the chicane, Steve Palmer leads. It's a 3.8-litre non-turbo engine in Steve's Metro. That's good for throttle response, but there's less power. But it's enough for Steve to lead. Here he is. Down, tumble downhill. The 1990 British champion, followed by Trevor Hopkins, 4 times British champion, and Pekka Rantanen from Finland. And Hopkins is pushing Steve Palmer for the lead. Look at the blue and white RS200. Out of Druids. Palmer leads, Hopkins drifting wide, second place, Pekka Rantanen third. But it is a copybook drive by Steve Palmer. He's smooth, he's calm, he is unflurried, he is commanding from the front. Just keeping it nicely on the circuit, hitting the apexes right, not touching the tyres as he goes through the S's and the chicane. Into paddock again. Sitting high and looking at the circuit from his driving seat. Into Druids. Through Langley's. And he's going to win this Heat 6. There's the flag, Steve Palmer wins, but Pekka Rantanen is second, and that's Hopkins, gone off at Langley's. He's recovered, he's spun it back. He's going to finish third, but that's the end of Trevor's racing for today.
Steve, it seems that your prospects have grown and grown as the afternoon has progressed. How do you rate them now?
Well, obviously I'm on the front row, so I'm pleased to be there. I was doing a bit of a rain dance earlier, but it doesn't look as though it's going to come off. Hopefully I'll make a good start, and perhaps I can beat Will to the first corner.
How important is that start going to be?
Well, that's the be-all and end-all, really. Although it's 4.5 laps, and it is quite a long race. So it's really the man to the first corner that's going to dominate the race, and hopefully he can stay there.
Tell us why a damp track, a greasy track, would have been to your advantage, or more to your advantage.
Well, obviously, with my engine is a normally aspirated version, which means that I can go off with low revs, which in turn doesn't create a lot of wheel spin, so therefore I'll gain traction. But with a turbo car, in order to keep the boost up, to give you the acceleration, you need to have your foot down, which means you're going to spin the wheels. So off I go, and the turbo will be sitting there.
That at least is the plan. Will Gollop in the turbo-powered Metro will have other ideas. Track conditions a little greasy, but certainly not to Gollop's disadvantage. Rob Gibson already on the grid. He's opted out of the parade lap. He'd be starting from row 3. And Will Gollop makes his way onto pole position, to be joined on that front row by Palmer, who's pushed him so close during the course of this season's British Championship. So this is the climax for an enormous crowd at Brands Hatch, the final of the Autoglass British Grand Prix, and Murray Walker takes us through the field.
So, Will Gollop's Turbo Metro and Steve Palmer's Atmospheric Metro on the front row, ahead of Pat Duran's Ford RS200 and Barry Squibb's Escort Turbo. Row 3, Rob Gibson's 3-litre Metro and Rantanen's Turbo Ford. Silvernoinen and Carnegie next up, with Trevor Hopkins and Ole Arneson, making it 10. And in pole position, Will Gollop's body language says he means to take his 3rd Grand Prix win. It's action! Into paddock. It's a fantastic start by Will Gollop. Pat Duran 2nd, Palmer down to 3rd, and Duran's bodywork is flapping. In car with Will Gollop. It's a clear track ahead. It's foot hard down. Through the S's, Gollop leads, Duran 2nd, Palmer 3rd, Gibson 4th, and Squibb hits Phil Silvernoinen, who goes off. In car again with Gollop. And that rebuilt Metro is the car to beat. Those 600 man-hours were well spent through Langley's. And Pat Duran is really trying, with Palmer and Gibson right behind him. So Gollop leads into Hoppies. Duran 2nd, Palmer 3rd, Gibson 4th. Will Gollop exits Hoppies drop to rejoin the tarmac. Whitstable will is go, and he's looking unbeatable into the chicane. But it's close for 2nd. Duran, Palmer, Gibson and Squibb is closing. Out of the chicane. Gibson closing up on Palmer, he's going through. Palmer slides wide. And Squibb on the left moves up into 4th position. And number 11, Steve Palmer, is struggling. In car with Gollop. Look at him, look at the concentration. Out of Druids. Into the knife edge again. Pat Duran is superb 2nd in only his 2nd season of Rallycross. Gibson is 3rd, Squibb 4th, Palmer 5th. Number 28, Dermot Carnegie, is in 6th place. Into Hoppies. And out of it. Squibb is 4th in the ex-Martin Shanker Escort. And Steve Palmer, there he is, he's fighting back. This is the battle for 4th. And Barry Squibb, the 40-year-old hotelier from Torquay, has got it, number 16. Round tumble downhill. This is where it gets very slippery indeed. Into the S's, up Halewood Hill, back onto the tarmac. And it's flat out, brake hard for Druids. And at Druids, it's an effortless-looking Will Gollop up front with 3 laps to go. In car with Will, across the knife edge. But no one has won the British Grand Prix 3 times. Look at number 15, Rob Gibson in the yellow Metro. He's right up with Duran. Into Hoppies drop, Gollop leads. Duran 2nd, Gibson 3rd. Metro, Ford, Metro. Onto the chicane, in car with Will Gollop. And they're catching him. Look, Duran, and behind him, Gibson. And Gibson is almost off the ground as he goes into paddock. It's contact. He's opened up Duran's engine cover. Through the S's. Bang, he's done it again. up to Druids. They're together. Will is in trouble. Will is in. Gollop is in trouble. Durand goes through. Gibson goes past. Left rear puncture. That's it. Look. Through Langley's. And they're all over Gollop. There's Gollop. Squibb right behind him. Squibb goes past. Palmer goes past. That's Trevor Hopkins going off. My goodness, it's all happening here. And a frustrated Will Gollop is not going to win his 3rd British Grand Prix. Oh, poor Will. So, is Pat Durand going to win his 1st British Grand Prix? Look at Gibson's car, number 15. It's shattered. And this is the last lap. Surely nothing can stop Durand now. But Rob Gibson there from Goostrey in Yorkshire, he's certainly trying. He's trying hard. He's trying too hard. Look. Off onto the grass, onto the tarmac, into Druids. It's a fantastic drive by Pat Durand, impressive all the year in Britain and Europe. Now he's going to win Rallycross's only Grand Prix, and he does. Gibson 2nd, Squibb 3rd, Palmer in 4th place, and an overjoyed Pat Durand can hardly believe it's true. Well, number 15, Rob Gibson may have finished, but only just. And a dejected Will Gollop, defeated by that puncture, can only think of what might have been. And here's how the lead changed at Druids. Gollop, first of all, hit by Durand, then by Gibson. And Gibson's car absolutely shattered. Now here's a replay from Gollop's point of view. Into Druids, there goes Durand. There goes Gibson, it's biff, bang and through, and Gollop is out. But Pat Durand, the winner, carries Rob Gibson home, and British drivers finish 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th for the first time in the Grand Prix 10-year history, because it's Pat Durand 1st in his RS200, Rob Gibson 2nd in his Metro, Barry Squibb 3rd in his Turbo Escort, and Steve Palmer 4th in his Metro. Great driving and a great meeting.
And Pat Durand, a big man with a very big personality, a Grand Prix winner. And while the top 3 treat the champagne in the same way they treat their bodywork, Will Gollop reflects on the win that slipped away.
Well, I actually thought it was the last lap, and I got the puncture going through Paddock Bend. It's quite a long way from where they actually came by me. But I thought I could hang on to it, but then I realised it was another lap, all was lost.
The circuit is very tough on tyres, and punctures are always a problem here, aren't they?
Always a problem, and I think with the car, the Metro especially seems to suffer from rear problems. There's a lot of the drive goes to the rear because it's fairly short wheelbase, and the car sits back on the back wheels a lot.
How did Pat actually get past you? It looked a bit lively up there.
Yeah, it was a bit. Yeah, they weren't very gentlemanly about it, no Pat nor Rob, but it's nothing lost. It's not a problem.
That was inevitable that they would go past.
Well, I think it was inevitable they come by. It'd been nice if they just waited till the gap was there.
The car's been misbehaving all weekend, and we've still been doing good times. So we knew that if we could stay with Will and just give him a push, stay with him, and in case something went wrong, which it did, and then we'd be there, and it just went to plan.
How would you describe the circumstances in which you got by?
Well, I saw Will had a puncture for about half a lap, and he was starting to slow a bit, and I just stayed with him, knew that I was going to have to go past sooner or later, because he was going to come off, and finally he went slightly wide and I just popped inside him.
Yeah. Up till that point, what had the race been like for you?
Just hang on in there, go as fast as you can without coming off, basically, which is the normal thing with motorsport, I think.
And that really is your philosophy in the sport, isn't it? To really give it everything that you've got.
Well, that's the sport all over. Yeah. It talks to itself. It's the most exciting motorsport there is, and that just goes to show people come here in their thousands, and it can only get bigger.